Okay, so in this section, we're going to talk about, one of the things we're going to talk about is called the average rate of change. So one example I can give you is, say you get in your car and you drive for 300 miles, and it takes you 5 hours. Okay, and so you say, oh well, how fast was I going? Well, a speed, this comes up later in another problem, is miles per hour. You could have kilometers, but we're just going to go with miles per hour here. There's other units of measure for speed, but we're just going to say, you're in your car and you're going so many miles per hour. So what you might do is you'd say, well, I was going 300 miles an hour, or 300 miles in 5 hours. And so you say, well, that's like 60 miles per hour. Okay, this would be considered an average. You weren't going 60 miles an hour the whole time. I mean, you were backing out of your driveway. That you're not going to go 60 miles an hour doing that, I hope. And then there were stops and traffic, and maybe you slowed down, you sped up, that type of thing. But this would be an average rate of change, it's called. Okay, so you're changing something over, a lot of times it's time, but it doesn't have to be time. Anyway, in this case it's over time. There's a formula for it. Now a lot of times when they're explaining rate of change, they'll say the change in y over the change in x. That symbol there, the little triangle, is called a delta. It's a Greek letter. And we're saying, well, we're changing our y values, our outputs, compared to how we're changing our inputs. Okay? And they use this for the slope formula. That's another example. So this is kind of an extension of that idea of the slope formula. Another way they'll write it is they'll write it the change in f of x over the change in x. Oops, put the parentheses in there. Because, we're using function notation now. Okay, but what does all this mean? Well, you're going to take f of, x sub 2 minus f of x sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay? So, up here in the numerator, that's the change in y. So the change in, maybe I should say output. Okay, so you take your last output and you subtract the first output. And then down here, that's the change in inputs. Okay, so this is the formula we're going to use for average rate of change. So we're going to give you an example now. And they give us a table. It says, using the table, find the average rate of change of the price of gasoline between 2007 and 2009. Okay, so up here, this is a year, so that's our input. And out here, or the C of y, is the output, or how much the gas is costing. So in 2005, I guess it cost $2.31 or $2.31. But in 2012, it cost $3.68. Okay, so that's probably about right. Anyway, so we're seeing how the gasoline prices are changing. And sometimes it went up, sometimes it went down. Like from here to here, it went down, but then it went back up. Okay, so it's kind of all over the place, but what we're looking for is an average rate of change. Now, when they ask for an average rate of change, they have to tell you over what interval. Oops, lost my pen. And so we're going to go from 2007 to 2009. So when we figure our average rate of change, let's write the formula. So it's going to be f of, well, actually it's c. Darn it. It's c. That's our function. So it's going to be c of y sub 2 minus c of y sub 1 over y sub 2 minus y sub 1. Now, why aren't I using x's? Because for some reason they gave this to us in terms of y. Okay, so it might be easiest to do the denominator first. So we're saying from, this would be our y sub 2, 2009, minus our y sub 1, which is going to be 2007. Those are the inputs, those are the years. Now we have to look at the outputs. So you're going to take C of y sub 2, this would be C of 2009, that's 241, 2.41, and we're going to subtract C of 2007, which is 284. Okay. Yeah, okay, make sure I'm doing that right. 241, 284. Okay, so when I subtract the numerators, what do I get? 0.43. And when I subtract, oops, negative, sorry. And when I subtract the denominators, I get 2. So if I divide that out, 215, I'm getting an average rate of change of negative 0.215, or about negative 22 cents. Over that time period, it went up, but then it went back down. So the overall average rate of change was negative about 22 cents. Okay? We're going to do some more examples, but this gets you started.